Okay, I think this should be working now. I tried to do this yesterday and it didn't work. For those of you who don't know, I rebuilt my system last month and I'm still trying to get everything back up and going and getting back into the swing of things going into 2020. So looks like all this is going, which means that I should be able to do some more things this week live to kind of fill in for what I haven't been doing these past few weeks. And I'll probably try, it'll probably be 8 p.m. Eastern on the 1st that I'll try just a general live chat. I don't have the voice chat with this. I should have the text chat, except that YouTube keeps telling me it's disabled even though I have it enabled. So I didn't announce this or anything. This is just whenever I could get it up and running. So we'll see if anyone's paying attention and anyone can get on and see what's going on in the chat room. But what I'll be looking at is this article, Why Radical Libertarians Are the New Communists. Oh boy, you can just tell this is going to be so much fun just from the title. Aha, Steve Stevens, yes. Yes, just got the notification. Yeah, this wasn't scheduled, so it's a bit impromptu, but we'll go through this. Hello, Sint1. So this is from Nick Hanauer and Eric Liu, and it turns out this is an article, I think, actually from 2016, and it's been reposted. 2 cents, how you doing? Good to have you on here. So, yeah, first of all, gotta love the term radical libertarianism. Yes, we're radically leaving people alone. So, most people would consider radical libertarianism and communism polar opposites. The first glorifies personal freedom. Gotta love the weasel words. The second would obliterate it. Yet the ideologies are simply mirror images. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Both attempt to answer the same question and both fail to do so in similar ways. Where communism was adopted, the result was misery, poverty, and tyranny. That's true. Hello, Zero. If extremist libertarians, yeah, we're extreme about not interfering in your life. If extremist libertarians ever translated their beliefs into policy, it would lead to the same kinds of catastrophe. All right, this is a rich guy who wants to pay more taxes? Maybe. Well, one of them was a former White House speechwriter for Bill Clinton. That's Eric Liu, and then Nick Hanauer is the Silicon Valley guy. So notice something here. When he talks about the failure of communism, he actually says the result was misery, poverty, and tyranny. But then when it comes to libertarian, it just would. It just would. That's what would happen because he's, some all-seeing Swami. He's turned over the tarot cards. He's looked in the crystal ball. So, all right. Let's start with some definitions. Well, that's always good and kind of lets you see the fail right up and in front. By radical libertarianism, we mean the ideology that holds that individual liberty trumps all other values. Well, really, it's just the non-aggression principle. Hang on, I'm adjusting mic levels here. This would be, that should be a little better. Maybe you're not hearing every last little movement I'm doing. It's just the NAP, the non-aggression principle. As long as people aren't initiating force against other people, leave them alone. It's not even really an ideology. It's a lack of ideology. So, by communism, we mean the ideology of extreme state domination of private and economic life. Now, look who some of the radical libertarians are. Ayn Rand fans who divide their fellow citizens into makers in the mold of John Galt and takers in the mold of anyone not John Galt. Okay, so he hasn't even read Atlas Shrugged. In fairness, neither have I. I made it through 7 chapters and it was just, no, it's terrible. But even I know that's not how it is in the book. Because Dagny Taggart is not John Galt, but still is. And then there's that other guy who's basically a walking, talking essayist. It's just terrible writing. But yeah, he hasn't even tried to understand what libertarianism is. This is just the things they say in order to be able to dismiss it. And the fail here in the Next paragraph, some, such as the Koch brothers, yeah, always good there, are economic royalists. What is an economic royalist? Who repackage trickle-down economics. Let's be clear here. I don't know how many times we have to say it. There is no such thing as trickle-down economics. Just get over it. So. Yeah, he doesn't mean Mario Maker. Yeah. As libertarianism popular, some are followers of Ted Cruz. Some resemble Grover Norquist. What about Ron Paul? What about Harry Brown? What about, like, actual libertarians? I guess we can't bring them up, right? Yes, liberty is a core American value, and an overweening state can be unhealthy. And he likes it, of course, when it's about same-sex marriage or against government surveillance. These social libertarians aren't the problem. The problem is everything he's against. Yeah. So, $10 says no mention of Rothbard or Mises. Yeah, that might be a safe bet. Let's see. I've only skimmed this article, so we'll see. It is the nihilist anti-state libertarians. How is this nihilist? This is not a nihilist philosophy. Of the Cruz, Norquist, Paul, Ron, and Rand alike. Well, I guess we do have a mention of Ron Paul here. Of course, he's mentioned along with Rand, and it's like, no. Rand is good on a couple of issues, the rest. But, okay, yeah, they did get a mention in, so that's something. All right. Like communism, this philosophy, meaning libertarianism, is defective in its misreading of human nature. Go search my channel and watch the quickie on human nature, and that'll tell you when you know about this. Misunderstanding of how societies work. Why do I have a feeling that's going to be projection? That's just my little prediction there. An utter failure to adapt to changing circumstances. I mean, it's got to be hilarious because the free market is changing circumstances, because changing circumstances are just people doing different things. And when we say people should be alone to try all these different things, then how is this a failure to adapt to that? It's government that can't adapt. I mean, they can't even figure out, what to do about any new technology of the last 20 years. They're still getting their little panties in a bunch over encryption techniques that have existed since the 1970s. So, geez, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. So, let's see. Radical libertarianism assumes that humans are wired only to be selfish. Well, it's a change, I guess. Generally, they say we assume that humans are wired to be good when, of course, they're evil, and that's why we need a government, so that we can give some of these evil people power. Yeah, I know, it doesn't make sense, but... All right, wired only to be selfish, when, in fact, cooperation is the height of human evolution. Well, if cooperation is the height of human evolution, why do we need a government? Yeah, this is, yeah. It assumes that societies are efficient mechanisms requiring no rules or enforcers, when in fact they are fragile ecosystems prone to collapse and easily overwhelmed by free riders. It's not often that they contradict themselves in the next sentence, but we've gone from cooperation being the height of human evolution to overwhelmed by free riders and fragile and collapsed. Yes. And it is fanatically rigid in its insistence on a single solution to every problem. Roll back the state. What is the state? Except an assertion that there should be a single solution to every problem. Because we've got a solution here. We have no idea if it'll work or not because we're not experts in anything, but we scribbled it down on paper and called it the law, as opposed to our single solution of letting people try different things and finding what solutions work for them. Yeah. All right. So, radical libertarianism, if ever put to the practice of the scale of something bigger than a tiny enclave, would also be a disaster. I'm sure if Esso would hear, he could roll off examples off the top of his head of examples where it's actually worked very well. Yeah. The government did not invent the internet, Friedrich. I debunked that a long time ago. What the government did was interfere in its development and made it a lot worse than what we is. You want to know why you have spam? It's because they weren't implementing what the free market was doing, which was having a session layer, among other things. But a session layer means that you can have proper authentication, and so no one can send you an email without, that. They can't just, go and just blast off a zillion emails and pretend to be someone else or whatever. Yeah, and all of the email viruses and things like that wouldn't work. No, government did not invent the internet. Let's just get rid of that idea right now. We say the conditional would because radical libertarianism has a fatal flaw. It can't be applied across a functioning society. What might radical libertarians do if they actually had power? The point is you don't have power. That's the idea. Yeah. Check this out. A President Paul would rule by tantrum, shutting down the government in order to repeal laws already passed by Congress. Because those are words, from God. They're prophets and their laws are like the Bible, A Secretary Norquist would eliminate the IRS and progressive taxation. Good, because taxation is theft. It's funny to think that the government is the only human institution that coerces people to artificially guarantee its existence instead of primarily focusing on cooperation. Ultronium, that is precisely it. And as much as he, says, oh, well, this is all about cooperation. No, it's about interfering with the cooperation. People are cooperating. Government comes around and says, no, we have scribbles on paper that say that you can't do that. So radical libertarians would be great at destroying. Well, we'd be great at destroying things that initiate force on other people, but that's just destroying things that destroy. I mean, some things should be destroyed. I think it was pretty good that smallpox was destroyed. Yeah, throw in a nice little word like destroying. They would have little concept of creating or governing because we don't think anyone has the right to do that for anyone else. Oh, here we go. It is in failed states such as Somalia that libertarianism finds its fullest expression. Yes, that failed socialist state of Somalia. You should read the comments after you're done, Shane. Well, we'll see how time goes. And we'll see how this is. And maybe in a minute I can turn off that air conditioner too. I don't know how you can hear it, but it's weird because thanks to these computers I have in my house, which are basically space heaters, it's been struggling to keep it under 80 degrees in here all day. Yeah, we kind of had a sudden little, not really a heat wave, but high 60s or around 70, which is just enough not for the air conditioner to come on. So then, yeah. So, all right. Oh, and yeah, libertarianism is being expressed in Somalia because what you have are a bunch of different groups of people who are either socialists or they want to impose Sharia law or something else that libertarians want nothing to do with, and they're all fighting each other for control. Yeah, that's a libertarian there, yeah. 9 words to fear are, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. Yep. I'm here to help. I think that's 8, but anyway. Nature is very violent because evolution is... Okay, go read some Dawkins. Go read anything by an ethologist. Yeah. Many animals have states? Okay. I'm done with Friedrich. I am completely done with Friedrich. All right, extreme positions. Here we are. Our extreme leaving people alone. Some libertarians will claim we are arguing against a straw man. Gee. The public record of extreme statements by the likes of Cruz, Norquist, and the Paul speak for itself. Notice how no examples. No, just trust it. Reasonable people debate how best to regulate or how government can most effectively do its work, not whether to regulate at all or whether government should even exist. See, we don't even get to discuss that. That's not something to even be considered. No. See, this is a religion. So we could say we could have a discussion over whether Jesus was a carpenter or whether he had some other profession, if he was a rabbi or whatever. But we can't question the truth of the Bible. That's off the table. Yeah. So, without government, who would control the boiling point of water? I think that's actually what they've tried to do, not that specifically, but a while back, Australia was trying to pass laws to basically overturn maths. All right. Yeah, not whether Donald. Yeah. So that's that paragraph. Yeah, I mean, just there it is, laid out right there. This is a religion. This is a cult. The whole idea of whether or not we should have a state, we're not allowed to discuss that. No. That's off the table. So, the alternative to this extremism is an evolving blend of freedom and cooperation. All right, freedom and cooperation are both ways of saying the same thing, and they're both things that the state only interferes with. So, the relationship between social happiness and economic success can be plotted on a bell curve, and the sweet spot is away from the extremes. Oh my God, how many graphs do I have showing otherwise? I mean, I looked at every economic metric I could think of, and some that I couldn't because they were suggested to me by viewers, and every single time things got better with more economic freedom. I was actually wanting one of them to go the other way just so I could show a negative example and say, well, okay, here's one of it. No, none of them went the other way. Let's see. Yeah, without government, who will make laws that defy the laws of nature? Yeah. Yep, the private sector is always more efficient than the public sector as the incentives are different. And the public sector is a third-party spender. Yeah, Milton Friedman made that point very well. So check out his work. Explain the working societies that are safe enough the kids can walk and play without them being harmed. And that's the thing. Our kids have never been safer, and yet there's all this panic over, oh, our kids are in such danger from, pedophiles or whatever. Yeah, whatever. That's actually at kind of a low. All right, where was I? Oh, yeah, that is where true citizenship and healthy capitalism are found. Yeah, you don't be an apostate. You have to be a good little parishioner and do what your high priests say. So, right. True citizenship enables a society to thrive for precisely the reasons that communism and radical libertarianism cannot. It's based on a realistic conception of human nature that recognizes we must cooperate to be able to compete at higher levels. Okay, aside from the human nature thing again, I have to reiterate that all government does is interfere with cooperation. Yeah. What's the point of having a law otherwise? Yeah, I'm going to skip this true citizenship stuff. That's just like, you have to be a good little follower. You can't just be an apostate. Yeah. Changing policy to adapt to changes in circumstances. When does that happen? I mean, they pass a law and then something changes and then it's years, if ever, that the law gets changed. So we're still paying the tax on the Spanish-American War. Just let that sink in. You spend 98% of your life as an anarchist observing the net. Well, I hope it's 100%. I hope none of you have killed or raped anyone or anything like that, or stolen anything. So why do you say no aggression? I think I'm missing the thread of the chat here. It's been going by pretty fast. If the U.S. is to continue to adapt and evolve, we have to see that freedom isn't simply the removal of encumbrance or the ability to ignore inconvenient rules or limitations. Yeah, it must be because it's inconvenient. Freedom is responsibility. Communism failed because it kept citizens from taking responsibility for governing themselves. By preaching individualism above all else, so does radical libertarianism. But you don't want people to govern themselves. You want an elite group of people in Washington, D.C. to govern everyone. Individualism is people governing themselves. What? Are we still fighting the Spanish-American War? No, but we're still paying for it. That's what the telephone excise tax is. Rights are privileges, and privileges are paid for by someone. No, rights are what you can do without restraint. So, you have the right to speak, but no one has the right to give you a platform. You have the right to a free press, but no one has to give you a movable type machine. You have the right to keep and bear arms, but you can't go demand a free gun from anywhere. So that would kind of be nice if you could, but it really wouldn't, because you'd be taking property that belongs to others. So yeah, I think they're talking back and forth with Friedrich in the chat. It is one thing to oppose intrusive government surveillance or the overreach of federal programs. See, it's fine to be against the things that they're against. It is another to call for the evisceration of government itself. Yeah, it's fine to point out little problems with various forms of organized religion, but it's another to call for atheism. Do you see the similarities here? Yeah. Let's put radical libertarianism in the dustbin of history along with its cousin, communism. Yeah, so, all right. The Bible actually does support the theory of anarcho-capitalism in a lot of areas. Yeah. If you can find anywhere where it's doing that, it's the big book of multiple choice, because I can show you places where it specifically says that the governing authorities are put there by God. Otherwise, they wouldn't be governing authorities, and you should obey them. So, yeah. It's funny how, people retcon things. The drug cartels are kind of a new government that overpowered the weak Mexican one. In nature, there is, oh yeah, he's doing that might makes right thing. I told him the contradiction with that, and he just couldn't respond to it. All right, someone was saying, look at the comments. Dare we? Let's see. I guess I got to scroll down further. And I see white in the comments. I can't see any of the comments. Why can't I see any of the comments? Are they there? I can do a select all and see them. Okay. The libertarian world. Oh, this is where that comes from. Okay, so this is a meme now. And it's just something that libertarians and ANCAPs are kind of posting everywhere just as a joke. Libertarian view is almost childlike in its blithe naivete. Yeah. So, you want to check that out. I didn't know where that came from. So, by the way, the only reason drug cartels exist is because of the war on drugs. If drugs were available, without prohibition on the free market, then, they wouldn't exist. So. The current economy is a rampant capitalist one. Yeah, when you look at how hideously regulated we are, it's plagued with corruption, aka crony capitalism. It's a little bit of a contradiction in terms of, because you have cronies, you don't have capitalism, but anyway, we'll go with that. I like John Stossel just puts them together and calls it crapitalism. A true free market is not a bad thing when its power entities, now called corporations, are allowed to rig the system via the power of government when they purchase. Well, if you have a true free market, you don't have a government, so that's the thing. The problem is the government has the power. One's property can be taken because someone else needs it or desires it, and not because the person has violated the other's natural rights. Then you are supporting a corrupt system that will eventually self-destruct. Okay, that's right. True libertarians are about live and let live, and if you can't thrive in a libertarian system, and it's not because of some handicap beyond your control, then it's your fault, and you don't have the right to take from others. Well, that's not bad. Might be phrased better, but you're advocating taking from others is okay. Gotta love how they turn it right around. You know, say you don't have the right to take anything from others. And yeah. Fault lies with predatory capitalism. Yeah. This writer knows nothing of communism nor libertarianism. Forget the dictionary definitions. Oh, yeah, you see, that was just Russia. That's not real communism. Look at the Communist Manifesto. It's 70 to 80% in effect in most capitalist countries. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. You guys have no rationale behind that? I got a whole video explaining it. 16 minutes. Go watch it. I like Mean being a nickname for a grandma. Hey, Mean. That's my Mean. Alright, so anyway. A lot of these comments are walls of text. I don't think I'll be going through them. Are libertarians the new Marxists? Oh boy. That's got to be full of it too. Oh, here we go. Libertarianism is a fantastic philosophy for people who are already rich. The countries that come closest to economic and are all in the third world. I've shown that exactly the opposite is the case. Most of those third world countries are socialist, actually. Full of masses of desperately poor people and a few wealthy families that can afford to buy all the services that their government doesn't provide. I think it's in one of Tom Woods' free books. Yeah, something like one of those your Facebook friends are wrong. I think wrong about regulation or something like that. But there was one part of education where he was talking with a guy who had worked with different charities all over the world. And says it's interesting when government isn't educating, the people decide they want to educate themselves and they build their own schools. They pretty much build them the same way. And it's pretty much like what you'd think a school is, this one-room schoolhouse. We don't need government to educate us. Oh yeah, it's a socialist hit piece, sure, right? And I think we got more people defending communism and socialism than anything else. Libertarianism's end goal is not any kind of utopia, stateless or otherwise, because how many libertarians have said utopia is not an option? You got to work for stuff. You're not just going to have everything handed to you. I don't know. I'm not seeing much fodder here in these comments. It's the typical stuff, the typical apologetics for socialism and other forms of Marxism. All right. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go through any of the comments here anymore. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see. Interesting discussion going on. I almost don't want to end the live stream to see it continue. So, who do you think you're convincing with your taxation is theft, prayer, lol? How is it not theft? You're taking money by force. That's theft by definition. Friedrich, we have answered that question over and over and over and over again. Deal with it. You've seen the video where I did it, and your only response was to tell lies about it. You did not respond to one single thing I said in there. So I don't want to hear it from you anymore. Let's see. Anarchism has never existed, so I just debunked the utopia thing. Friedrich, are you a troll? Is this on purpose? Because I don't know how anyone can be this consistently wrong by accident. I mean, just by chance you have to get something right now and then. All living creatures defend themselves from attackers. In fact, a lot of evolution is geared up towards exactly that. Either hiding from attackers or some form of defense or fooling them or evading them or anything like that. Get some real friends. Yeah. On the one hand, you say nap, then you say values. Yeah, we went through this in the comments as well. The nap is logically derived from first principles. I've presented that. Value being subjective means that we are individuals and we want different things at various different points. It is not any form of hypocrisy or inconsistency to say that these two are in any way incompatible. Yeah. In fact, it's because value is subjective in large part that, aggression becomes so bad, because if you're thinking, oh, here's something that's good, so I'm going to force it on everyone. Well, what if someone disagrees? If it weren't subjective, everyone would agree, and so it wouldn't be an issue. What makes natural law natural? Well, the fact that it's not subject to just opinion. It's got a logical basis. Natural law doesn't mean it's like, you can find it written in the stars or anything like that. The nap cannot be derived from first principle. I've done it, Friedrich. You've seen me do it. The FP only says that two contradictory things can't be valid at the same time. It doesn't say that, no. Go through it again. I went step by frickin' step. You begin with the first principle of evolution, lol? No. Radical libertarians, I wish I'd seen this sooner. Well, radical libertarians is something we get quite a bit. It's one of those words that doesn't really mean anything, but it kind of scares people. You can't abolish the government because without the government, the corporations will use the government to take over. Yep, that's a pretty good summary of it. A rational economist values things in order? What does that even mean? Value is about utility. All right? I have a bottle of water here that I've been using to keep myself hydrated. That's my utility out of it. That's thirst. The less thirsty I am, the less I value water. And the more water I have, the less I value, what it would take to get more of it. So I'm living out in the desert somewhere. Water is very precious to me, and I value it a lot. And I use it for drinking, and I hardly waste it on anything else. But now, I bathe in it. I wash dishes in it. Wash the car. People water their lawns or whatever. We use water for all sorts of different stuff because we don't value it as much because we got a lot of it. I'm a libertarian extremist, and I'm proud of it. I actually have a video along I think it's called I'm a Libertarian Extremist and So Are You. So check that out. I think it's a follow-up. There were a couple I posted around the same time. But, if me and my friend both have objective morals, and I think one sweater is better than my friend, nothing contradictory here. Yep, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Morality and value are two separate things. That's good. Yeah, that's right. Man, I had a legit question and clowns blocked it. Okay. I'm not sure where you are posting that, but if it's anywhere, if it's any of my things, just go ahead and repost. If government stayed out of economics, would you still consider keeping government? No. No, because it's not right to impose your will by force in any subject, not just economics. No, we did not steal the idea from economic left for anarchist leftists. I've debunked that one too. They don't care if it's theft or not. Well, that doesn't matter. It still is. You know, they can believe what they want. Belief doesn't change facts. Why is height not subjective but utility subjective? Lol. Well, you say lol, but that's actually a pretty good example. Because height is like, okay, there's a certain number of inches or centimeters or whatever you're measuring in, and someone else can measure and go, okay, yeah, I measure the same amount of centimeters. But does a red sweater or a blue sweater look better? People disagree on that. You know, there's not any way you can say one is objectively different than the other. Oh, this was on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook has gotten weird about that. By the way, you guys do know that Lao Tzu was 2,600 years ago, right? Just checking. Just seeing if you have any idea of history. Ideas can't be stolen anyway. That's right, because if you express an idea, someone else hears it, it becomes an idea in their head, it becomes their idea at that point. Utility is just as objective. Another person just needs the info on you. Well, do you really know that much about yourself from day to day? You know, how many times have you thought, oh, I'm not going to do something, then change your mind at the last minute and do it, you know? In the summer, I'm not going to pay as much for a sweater as in the winter. And someone who doesn't mind being a little cold versus someone who can't stand it will pay different prices for the same thing. Yeah, someone who lives in the tropics is not buying a sweater. And if you live in somewhere that's cold but not too cold, you know, New York or somewhere like that, now there are some people who are just fine in New York with short sleeves even. You know, and other people are going, oh, I'm freezing, I need to wear a sweater. That's why it's subjective. Yep. There was a time for about 7 months after I was hit by a drunk driver when a wheelchair was very valuable to me. Now it's not so much. I mean, it's valuable to other people, and I'm glad they can get them, but it's not something I can use anymore. So I'm walking around just fine, thankfully. It's an arbitrary unit just like any other unit. It's not about the unit itself. It's about the fact that we can use those to measure objective reality. Yeah, these whole people, oh, reality is just an illusion. Yeah, that's crap. A friend of mine he had a sister who was like, oh, no, reality is just what you and I agree that it is. And he was in his room one time, and the sister knocked on his door, and he was like, she was like, can I come in? He's like, yeah, come on in. And she tried the door, and she's like, well, the door is locked. And he said, well, the door's not locked for me. Now all you have to do is make the door not locked for you, and you can come in. The Tao Te Ching is great. Didn't finish it, but it was a good read. Well, finish it. It's not that long. It's amazing. And if you want to go from there, read the writings of Zhuangzi, who kind of expounded on a lot of that. If copyright was abolished, would the entertainment industry devolve into a print-off? Okay, you know when Shakespeare was writing all his plays, they weren't copyrightable? No playwright, not Shakespeare, not Francis Bacon, not any of the others, had their plays copyrighted. They were stealing stories from each other all the time. Shakespeare did not create Hamlet. He did not come up with Romeo and Juliet. Those were existing stories that he gave his own take on. So, that's all you need to do. Just look at history. So what is the qualifier for radical in libertarianism? Yeah, that's a good question. If you're going to say radical libertarianism, what are you talking about? I think the discussion in the chat's starting to degenerate a little bit. It was good for a while. But of course the woos, as always, just dig in their heels and keep just repeating things that have already been refuted. Or radical libertarianism is just a libertarian who believes in libertarian fundamentals. Well, that's the dictionary definition of the word radical, but that's not how it's used in articles like this. Copyright is a new idea. Yep, that's good. Look at the Copy Me channel on YouTube. And it's got some good videos on that. Or research the history of things like the Statute of Anne. Humans attack each other on a regular basis. That has nothing to do with it, Friedrich. That has nothing to do with it. Do you have the right to defend yourself when they do? That's the important part. Disney did not come up with Snow White. Another good example, you know, Cinderella, Pinocchio, all of these others. Disney just did his own take on them, and it became very popular. MGM did not create The Wizard of Oz. There were books before then. There were a few movie versions. There was a Broadway musical. But the 1939 movie, that's just what stuck with everyone. Even if that utilitarian stuff was true, it's still immoral and a category error. Ideas cannot be property. Yeah, practicalities cannot trump morality. You can't reason someone out of a belief they weren't reasoned into. Very true, Zero. Very true. Let's go. What I missed were the radicals per an article. Yep, that's what we were looking at, Russell. Just because you say you refuted it doesn't make it true. Okay. I wish we could have an honest debate. Well, Friedrich, you're the one who's in the way of that, not me. I've tried with you. I've tried. Oh, Steve Stevens. Hey, $5. Well, at least I got to catch part of one of your streams. About to start my post. We'll be able to listen at the top of the hour, so make it good. Yeah, I'm going to try to do another one tomorrow morning. People are wanting me to do this, what's it called? The economics something quiz. Economics dichotomy quiz or something like that. So I'll probably try to do that in the morning and see if I can get the voice chat going just to make sure everything's working again. And then maybe Wednesday night have a proper live stream. Not one that counts for the monthly live stream, but just to do it, just to see if we can all have it and celebrate the new year. Something to start off 2020. Yeah. The discussion in the chat, I think, is worn out. So I'm gonna go. But thanks everyone so much. Thanks for the donation there. I'm sorry, I forgot who it was. Oh, it was Steve Stevens. Yeah. Thanks for the donation there. Thanks to everyone else who supported. Thanks for everyone who's participating in the chat. Maybe you can just take it into the comments when we're done here. Great stream, Shane. Thank you, Zero. Hey, yes, continue the debate elsewhere. Never stop the debate. Thank you so much, and until next time, stay strong and be free.